So now let's kick things off. Dr. Ram, would you like to go first? Introduce yourself, please.
Sure, Jonathan. My name is Dr. Ram Kumar. I'm part of Volvo Group with their cybersecurity function. I have overall 20 plus years of experience in cybersecurity. Happy to be here. Thankful for the opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you. Ramesh, would you like to go next, please?
Sure, Jonathan. My name is Ramesh. I'm part of the Biocon group of companies, a pharmaceutical company. I had to got the opportunity to lead their cybersecurity across IT, OT verticals. 28 years in the technology industry, worked in varied industries and industry verticals, predominantly in manufacturing. And me, if you wanted to clearly for today's session, I'm a curious student and a continuous learner in control system and control system security.
Perfect. Thank you. And last but not least, Chirag.
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. So I'm Chatrang Srivastava with 20 plus years of experience in managing the industrial control systems as well as the cybersecurity for the IT and the OT ecosystem. So right now, I'm heading Envision Energy as a CISO for India region. As an Envision Energy, we are predominantly into manufacturing wind turbines as well as battery storage BESS units, and we supply it to the grids. My past experiences majorly is on in critical infrastructure, where I've built up boilers, built up power stations, worked in oil and gas. I was instrumental in setting up straightforward governance practices when it comes to industrial control system environment, working with the ground people and aligning them with the requirements as well as talking to the management in terms of negotiating with right kind of security recommendations for enhancing the capability of the industrial ecosystem. I'm also part of an OT security professional community, and we are also fostering our skills and knowledge and helping people to learn and grow together in order to safeguard the mission critical ecosystem.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have a wide range of experience, and I think I counted probably 60 years plus experience on the panel. So again, if anyone has any questions, these are the right folks to ask. So without further ado, we'll jump into the questions that we have prepared, and we'll take questions from the audience as we proceed. So let's get started with how to translate technical OT cybersecurity risk into language that your executive team can act on. So it's really going up, lifting up, trying to translate what we do into a language that can be used in the boardroom. Dr. Ram, would you like to kick off the response there?
Sure, Jonathan. So this is a very critical part in convincing the management, influencing the management. If we speak the technical language, it gets lost in translation. So importantly, we need to speak the language of the business. So that's a given. So in terms of financial impact or the operational disruption. So especially when you talk numbers and also how these risks, OT risks, can actually halt production, it would grab the attention of management. Terms like downtime, supply chain disruption grabs more ears, right? And of course, reputational damage is very, very important to protect. Any cyber attack can give bad press, and that is not a good thing from the image perspective, the brand image perspective, and also the regulatory and legal consequences. Today, almost all companies come under some industry specific regulations and legal frameworks. So these are very important to be compliant with. We don't want to end up with fines and penalties for non-compliance or violations. So these things resonate very well with the management. Apart from that, you can also use tactics like how to focus on the scenarios, right, and consequences using some real world examples, and how similar industries faced cyber attacks, and how on the OT systems. And what is important is how we manage the risks effectively, and also look at different scenarios, real world scenarios. Beyond this, you need to prioritize the risks. Almost all companies which are focused on managing OT risks have conduct risk assessments. So risk assessments can give a huge list of open risks, but what's important is identifying the critical and high um, level risks and prioritize them, and focus on remediation. And also, the important thing is when you speak to the board or the management, it's not just enough to highlight the issues or problems, but come up with actionable solutions, actionable recommendations, and see how these recommendations can help in safeguarding the assets, the reputation, avoid financial impact and legal risks, and also give a ROI, clear return on investments. So all these tactics can actually, all these strategies can actually help anybody from the technical side and the leadership to effectively translate into actionable insights to the executive team, right? So that they take informed decisions and allocate the required resources for robust security of the OT systems. So that's my take on this.
That's a very comprehensive take. Thank you very much. Chitrank, do you want to add anything to that point?
No, absolutely. I agree with Dr. Ram. So ideally, translating the risk from coming from an industrial ecosystem, it is a very difficult task, and then translating it to a management who doesn't may not be fully aware of the technicalities of the plant processes, and for them the view is typically on those business perspective. No, we need to speak a language which is very user friendly. It should be like no technical jargon should be there, and all kind of a solution should be should have an actionable insights. No, so probably I see it in a very structured way when I say that no, we need to quantify the risk. When I say quantify the risk should be quantified. If in one perspective, it should be quantified in terms of money. No, defining the single loss expectancies, annual loss expectancies, no exposure factors, and all those things. And the second point, you need to highlight the risk related to the reputation in terms of human loss. No, so when it comes to safety, reliability, and availability of the machine, let us assume a plant. You need to speak in a very simple way, like what will happen if cyber attack will happen on particular set of control system, and this section of the plant goes down for another 4 or 5 years. So the production downtime, you need to talk about the safety incidents, and yes, regulatory very well aligned. No, so and one of the very simplest way you can talk on presenting some actionable items and representations, giving options along with the benefits. No, like for example, you see a cyber risk, and then see, management's expectation is that you should come up with a solution. The solution should be reasonably well cost effective, and it should prevent any reputational damage. So and this is not a one time activity. Probably you may need to end up putting several efforts in multiple meetings to convince one single point, so that because operational technology security was not much on the focus area, it was more of an IT security piece of it. But then you need to speak a lot, you need to discuss with with the team, with the executive team, and explain them the requirements. So I'm aligned with Dr. Ram. Yeah.
Hmm. An interesting question came in on exactly this topic as well, which is quite relevant. The question is, what metric or KPIs have been most effective in demonstrating that OT cybersecurity impact to the executive? So do you have a metric for the audience or a group of metrics? How do you approach actually demonstrating that? What's the focus in their language?
Uh, when you talk about metrics in demonstrating, your question is, please correct me if your question is on demonstrating the metrics to
So
the executive
yeah,
members.
I assume the question from the audience is what number or numbers, metrics can we put in front of the board or the executive leadership that they can understand and help track. So it's in their language, but it helps track the value of what we do on the OT cybersecurity side.
Yeah, so correct. So it is a very tricky question when I
Mm.
see from my perspective. Let us take. I'll explain this with a kind of a very small example. You have a power station, and you see that your power station is prone to a cyber attack because of some of the digitalization initiative taken by a digitalization team, and then they are not making cybersecurity as an inclusive part of their program. Uh, when you go to the management, no, so the first query comes that we need to go ahead with it. But then when you start building up those metrics when it comes to cyber risk, as I already mentioned, the two factors play a very vital role. The first thing is on the financial side of it, you need to identify the loss, the single time loss, no, as well as the exposure factor. Now, for an example, if your critical boiler safety system gets compromised, it can roll over your boiler, and probably you may take another 3-4 years to come back to it. So going down to the metrics, coming back to that numbers, it is very difficult to align. But yes, we can align with the certain components in terms of financials and majorly on the safety risk, no, and then demonstrating them on the return of investment. It could be like we can give certain case studies on basis what was some with some historical impacts, no, like for example, if we have certain kind of security practices involved in our processes, then definitely we'll be able to reduce on certain incidences, as well as it can enhance the customer trust. So we need to use storytelling kind of no complete illustrations of the risk and the solution. There's no very clear cut
Mm.
straightforward answers when it comes to
Mm.
industrial security, because the impact is very massive. So you need to demonstrate. If I'll go and directly tell that, okay, your boiler will blast and you will lose out everything, there will be a lot of
Mm.
panic. So you have to run the show in such a way that you demonstrate the requirement, you give them
Mm.
the fixes. These are the right way to handle it, and risk is always there, but then we have always need to have some contingency plans to handle such kind of risks. So that is what I believe
Mm.
would be the matrix.
Perfect. I think you answered. Another
Uh,
question came in that
Jonathan,
you.
Jonathan, if I
Sorry.
may
Yeah.
want to
Yes,
add,
please.
maybe very quickly, maybe I take the liberty to summarize. Well, you asked the metrics, it is all relative, which relative can be, for example, we
Mm.
can clearly say 1 hour downtime to a process. What is the productivity loss which we are
Mhm.
envisaging? Okay, that would be obviously the lost time would be always in industry, the similar kind of incident which has been thrown out certain numbers. Quality impact. If it is a quality impact happen, and let's take an example of a batch which or a production which has to
Mm.
be discarded. What is that impact in commercial when you have a quality issue? And when you have a safety issue, you always connect with process hazard as analysis. In safety, you can actually connect with the cyber ph analysis to tell what is that impact of that safety which is coming in. And moreover, which is intangible scenario, what is a reputation loss or a market cap
Mm.
realization issue which can happen when there is an incident which is publicly available. And on top of everything, we all run on trust of our stakeholders, whether it would be customers or a consumer. So if there is a trust deficit happen, what is that impact of the outcome of your top line? What can also maybe calculated in a certain way to give them that benefit. So if these things happen, what would be the impact on the business parameters within numbers which is available in the industry? We can calculate and showcase to them. So that will give them a visibility, saying that the impact is not small, impact is big. And if that impact is big, what kind of action which we need to take to ensure the security is paramount?
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. I think that's perfect. Between the three of you, it was the perfect answer. You covered at least three of the questions that came in on that topic. We generally also advise clients that we work with is to try and understand the value at risk. And when you're presenting it to business people, you talk about the value at risk to the organization, whether it's from a safety or a point of view or a batch that needs to be discarded, or impact on the reputation, etc., that has some sort of value to the company, to the shareholders, to the customers, the partners, etc. Understanding or estimating that value, and then okay, if we address this risk, this is the value to the organization. We'll reduce the risk by this much. This is essentially the value. It's a very rough estimation, but it's something that everybody in the organization can, regardless of which OT, IT, where they work, they can wrap their head about it and communicate it in terms to the C-level that understand the value, understand the money side of the business. But I agree, it's a very complex question. As always, the answer starts with it depends, but I think the context is key, and it's always, I think, what we do is always a balancing act, but it also depends on who the audience is. So if it's a C-level, or if it's peers in operation or engineering, or even third parties, you need to understand the language of who you're communicating with, and that way you can think how to frame in terms of something they can appreciate, understand, and then they can provide us with their insights coming back. So yeah, it's a tricky one. So let's switch gears and focus on something that you have sort of implemented. So when we talk about aligning business and a cybersecurity decision that you've made in the past, what have you done that's maybe the most impactful thing that you can share with the audience? Ramesh, would you like to kick this one off?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan, for that. I think it's in the current scenario, we would, as a security practitioner or running, ensuring the compliance to security or assurance to the leadership, we need to have to understand what kind of business align or business centric decision which we are taking while building our cybersecurity strategy. If you ask me what I have able to do in the entire environment, not technical, I'm clearly doing a non-technical answer to your question. So I've seen certain challenges in the environment, whether it would be lack of collaboration or lack of ownership, lack of aligning the stakeholders or engaging periodicity. So we in the organization in last 1 year, we agreed to have an operating model to run industrial control system cybersecurity in the organizations. That model help us to identify all the stakeholders, whether it would be the ops team or an automation team or a maintenance team, a technology team, and a security team. More importantly, the OEMs working in this environment and the system integrators working in the environment, along with the leadership. So that gives you a clear identity stakeholder mapping. And once you've done the stakeholder mapping, then you're able to put accountability and ownership on each of the areas to each of the stakeholders. That clearly define the ownership and accountability. Once you have that, you clearly say what is your collaboration method so that you exchange ideas, you understand the challenges in each of the people's, which each of the stakeholders working in this goal, and then you continuously engage with the people. And along with that engagement, we do a capability development model also, so that you need to have a cross domain capability development has to happen. The shop floor team understands security, and security team understands shop floor challenges and shop floor requirements, so that that collaboration and capability development increase a team capability, so that team can run the entire environment. So this operating model help us to put a reference architecture or a guidelines cybersecurity guidelines across the organization. While that guidelines work as a overarching document, there are exceptions in the scenarios understanding the site specific challenges or a process specific challenges. We relook into that challenges and redefine the guidelines and architecture so that we doesn't miss the operational impact, we doesn't miss the cybersecurity impact. And one more scenario which we are able to align through this operating model is saying that engage at the initial stages or at the design stages of any new technology intervention or a process intervention, or even in case of a business intervention in the entire area. This helps you to work with the entire team from the initial stages itself, so that you don't lose the time to go to market. So off lately, which we see that security would be an afterthought, then it comes at the end stage, then would be time to market will be disturbed. So if you're working in advance, that time to market is aligned with the business team. So which will help us to go to the market or maybe implement the technology or the process at the targeted time without even compromising the security. And one more scenario which we had agreed is saying that while we agreed saying that any budget requirement for cybersecurity should be baked in as part of the project cost. So we don't even think of lately. So while we are building the overall project cost, cybersecurity is one of the line component which we had added so that we don't have any maybe a misalignment while we are going for an implementation. So that is the one of the business aligned decision which helped us to build a cybersecurity or industrial control system cybersecurity into the entire the manufacturing environment, while we are adopting the latest of technologies to enable business to run, improve their productivities, run their qualities, do the defect analysis, maintenance improvements, all that. So that is one thing which I can call it out.
Brilliant. And while you were talking, an interesting question came in, which relates to this topic. It says, how do you navigate conflicting priorities between cybersecurity requirements and operational teams who are focused on the uptime and throughput, etc.? What's your experience in that?
No, but that is where I said it's a stakeholder engagement and collaboration works. We understand each other's priorities and the challenges. So once you understand the priorities and challenges, the risk arising out of what that decision is a business risk. It's not a cybersecurity risk.
Absolutely.
So we understand what is the risk of maybe compromising a security decision while we are implementing a business project. And if that creates a business risk in the environment, that is the risk is not owned by security. That risk is owned collectively. So if we are able to drive that collective ownership of risk, which will be able to derive a conflicting decisions out of it. So while there are certain areas which you not think of a bookish knowledge and then go and implement a security requirement, you understand what is the bare minimum foundational essential component which is needed in that area. You help them with that, and then continuously improve the security maturity in that process.
So like everything gets rolled up in the end into the enterprise risk management. Yeah. Sometimes we each lose sight of that because we're so focused on our own particular areas, but the risk in the end is to the business, as you said. Chitrank, would you like to jump in here? Anything to add?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I would like to give one of the example of from my last assignment. No, so I was working with an oil and gas company, and when I entered into the organization, um, I saw typically as a usual industrial ecosystems, there are a lot of misalignment when it comes to the stakeholders. People Management wants to implement cybersecurity measures and practices. However, people are not aligned. They have their own priorities, no, altogether. So here the cybersecurity as a cybersecurity professional or a leader, you need to do a lot of homework and then probably jump into the war ground, walking around with people, speaking with the people, because I strongly believe the gap is in terms of awareness. And when you try to connect people just just complementing with the right kind of security issues with their plant manufacturing. The team will start harmonizing, and then they will start echoing with it. So that is where I tried to map the complete trio, the people, process, and technology, and I started working on setting up strong governance practices when it comes to cyber security requirements, developed some standard frameworks which are tailored for the industrial environment. It has nothing to do with the IT ecosystem because their requirement is typically different. But when it comes to industrial environment, you cannot keep on tweaking all those uh, regular processes just to fix cybersecurity into the industrial environment. So you need to collaborate, you need to understand how the process is working, and then you need to particular bring up a policy or a process which is much or more aligned with the business requirement, but it has a as a feel of all the best standards globally available, let it be NIST no or some NERC standard, if up to what level we can apply into our system. So that is what I did something on those perspective. And as Mr. Ramesh Kumar mentioned, security alignment is at a core. So what we did for any new projects coming up into the system, we started taking all those projects as through the security lenses and security cameras, so that we could align the right kind of network architecture, and to ensure that once that project moves into a production environment or under the implementation environment, all the security requirements are aligned to the standard. So we had a standard which works as a bible for the organization, and then from that standard we tried to engage the security architectures, and then started training those people. So there were certain challenges when I see OEMs as well. They come into the picture, and they are a very big stakeholder. They sometimes no, you have to engage with the OEMs to understand their concerns as well, and you need to collaborate. You need to share your expectation in a very right way, and probably we did it. Look, like for example, we had the refinery was very huge, no, so one OEM was having multiple different installations. So rather than putting up a desegmented security approach, we tried to chip into the process and understand what are the actual process requirement and how we can align so that I can have a centralized security system in terms of long-term sustainability of a business. So that is what we did, and we that idea was very well welcomed by the OEMs as well, and we collaborated and made a integrated architecture where the security was aligned and from the centralized location, and we were doing good in terms of the architecture. It was one of the best in class architecture we could maintain. So this
Mhm.
is what I have done in past in terms of security governance, and it all starts from people. You need to speak with the people, the stakeholders, management expectations, and then definitely, as mentioned, no, you need to interpret the requirements to the management in a very simple, non-technical way, putting up in a very clear words that these are certain things we have to do, map it to certain regulations, and then you will see the ball will start rolling up. That is my experience on it.
Yeah, that's great, important, particularly that the insight that your partners are also stakeholders. You talked about OEMs, and there'll be other partners that are stakeholders, and particularly if we're in this long supply chain where we have suppliers, we have customers, we have partners. So, when we look at the RACI model for doing particular projects, we have to look internally and externally and laterally across the board too. So, that's some great insight. So, I guess let's move on to budget or investing in cybersecurity. So how do you balance or how do you get leadership to help in balancing cybersecurity investment with the production goals? Some ROI was briefly mentioned before, but how do you prioritize budget initiatives when budgets are normally pretty tight and the risk appetite vary across the organization? Is that, Dr. Ram, is that something you can chime in on there?
Sure, Jonathan. So, have to get everything in numbers. You need to quantify the risk in business terms, to give the annualized loss expectancy and also give them heads up on the cost of downtime. For if OT
Mm,
systems are down, the tangible cost for every hour of or day of halted production is huge, right? Because of the loss of revenue and wasted materials and stuff. And of course, the cost of breach is also pretty high. And we can always quote some example scenarios. How, for example, if there is without a proper security controls or upgrades, a ransomware attack can actually take down or PLC controllers. It could encrypt them. So this could lead to a shutdown of your lines, yeah, production lines, and you can give scenarios for 72 hours, for example, what could be the loss in dollar terms, and what is the recovery cost as well. So that quantification is important. Second thing is you need to align the cybersecurity with the production goals and strategic objectives. So primarily, management is worried about the uptime and reliability of the systems and how continuous, reliable, and safe operations are very important, right, to meet the production goals. And of course, you need to protect the IP, intellectual property. So that is a non-negotiable thing. And also ensure safety, right? Safety cannot be
mm,
compromised under any situation. And the third aspect I would say is how do you demonstrate your ROI and what we call as the return on security investment, ROCE, right? So that you can always show by the improved efficiency, enhanced compliance, right? Competitive advantage it may give you, and also importantly, protecting your assets from cyber attacks and other things like your uh, insurance premium for cyber security can be lower as well when you have a very strong security program and you can demonstrate value of it, right? Then that could actually help. And of course, we always use dashboards, metrics, and KPIs that resonate with leadership. So what's important is instead of using technical metrics, you can use business-oriented KPIs, right? So to be specific, you can talk about reduction in unplanned downtime due to cyber incidents. You can talk
mm.
about number of critical vulnerabilities that have been remediated, and what is the compliance adherence rate, time to detect. All these things resonates very well with management. So, and also importantly, cross-functional collaboration and communication also is possible when all of this happens. So by adopting all these approaches, probably we can come around, make the management see value in the investments we make in OT security and how it can improve the
Mm.
overall security posture. Yeah.
Well, that was some answer. A lot of stuff in there. And I think there was another question that came in the middle, and you already answered it. So that was fantastic. Ramesh, do you have anything to add there? Think you're on mute. Mute. That's it.
Sorry for that. Ram has covered most of the areas, but my point is the moment when if you can have a discussion with the leadership saying that whenever you have a maybe target timelines budgeting,
Mm.
with considering productions in your or production targets or production objectives in your mind, you always budget for manpower, or you always budget for raw materials.
Oops. You seem to have lost Ramesh. And it was in full flight too. We'll move on to the next area. Hopefully, we'll get him back and he'll be able to finish his thoughts. But well, one, another interesting area is, and it's something that we touched on earlier in the day, but it's how do you ensure that your cybersecurity strategy supports and doesn't slow down digital transformation in manufacturing? I think is a great question. Um, Shashank, would you like to kick off that answer?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, when it comes to cybersecurity and digital transformation, no, there's a altogether different kind of a ball game. So normally, security professionals are seen as roadblockers,
Mhm.
no? And the digitalization team will see them that if I'll go and ask certain recommendations, security team will put a list of recommendations, and definitely my say a digitalization program will go, no, go on a halt. So and the security team thinks like digitalization is blessing in disguise. So when it comes to industrial control system environment, so there's often some level of friction, no, happening between the two teams, and it would be wise enough to relate it to the business requirement. At the same time, we need to see that it should be a long-term sustainable business requirement. No, so keeping security aside and moving ahead with the digitalization may help in short run, but in long run, it could create lot of risk. So that is where the security team should be considered as an enabler of the process. They should be allowed to participate in this, and that is where, as an organization, the leadership should appoint the security team as an enabler, and they should allow them to govern the complete process where they can enforce the adoption of secure by design philosophy. When I say secure by design philosophy, it means like anything which is coming, no, for digitalization per se. I want to connect to my control system, some new, no, new technology. Probably it should pass through the lenses of security. The complete design philosophy should be validated. In case there are certain recommendations that should be accepted, it should not be seen as a roadblocker. No, and the very important thing is, while digitalization, we have a digitalization program. The security integration should be done in the very early stage of this digitalization program. So you should not see digitalization in an isolation and security in isolation. So it requires a lot of collaboration and understanding from the IT team or from the OT team and along or the digitalization team. No, to collaborate well with the security, they should understand this is must, because we need to run the business for another 20 years. It's not about building up certain, putting up a new technology and finishing up your KRA for a year, but it is all about your activities are going to impact to the business in a long run. It can create a lot of benefits in the process, but one cyber attack, one falsify configuration can result in the business loss, which cannot be no rolled back when it comes to industrial ecosystem. So that is where there's a lot of collaboration and engagement, as well as training and awareness plays a vital role. The management, the top leadership should promote training and awareness in terms of security and to each and every employee, because nowadays digitalization is not the one component which is happening in the process environment. There must be there, if we'll go in the IT ecosystem, lot of things are getting digitalized, but the idea is when it goes to the cyber security team, after a couple of days, people will start questioning when you are going to release my documents from your
Mhm.
table. No, so
Mhm.
but yeah, so this is the challenge. So it requires a lot of awareness, lot of
Mhm.
collaborations, and understanding that security is not for my own department; it is for the complete business.
Mhm.
And it is not a departmental risk or a network risk. It is a risk to the enterprise in terms of what kind of processes you are handling. It can be an IT ecosystem or it can be an OT ecosystem. So that's my take. from.
Yeah, I think it's something that we see a lot as well, and I think uh, uh, aligns with what you're saying is we often see it as a cultural thing, right? You said business risk, but it's very much cultural, right? If we look at safety and where safety was 30 or 40 years ago, and it took that time to have safety seep into the DNA of these companies, it's the same thing with cybersecurity. It needs to be part of the DNA of everybody that say we don't start a project without having that as a line item along with safety and then everything else that we need. So I think it's a really good point. Dr. Ram, did you want to add anything there?
Sure. I think very good point Chitrank has already covered, especially on the security by design should start as a way of life, not as an afterthought. What's very important is the shift left approach we need to take, where you integrate security requirements and considerations from the very first for any digital transformation project, not in the middle as an afterthought. That's important. So when you do a new smart factory initiative in the design phase itself, you need to integrate security requirements. And of course, the security architecture also has to come into play. And importantly, one thing that came across was my previous experience was the vendor due diligence, right? So whenever we when you acquire new technologies or solutions, for as part of the digital transformation initiatives, need to ensure that the solutions have security baked in. So when you do the assessment of the vendors, ensure that the vendor is having a strong security posture, and also please mandate the secure product development requirements. Because today, a lot of vendors, due to cost pressures, you may go for a vendor who is cheaper or due to other considerations, but security is something we need to keep in mind. Apart from that, aligning your security strategy with business and production goals is important. I think we briefly touched upon this. So the risk-based prioritization is very important, and communicating the business value, right? Because technical security measures, if you're going to communicate directly, it will not work with the management. So you need to use the business value that you derive. And today there is a divide between IT and OT. So this you need to bridge through collaboration, because end of the day, it's all about protecting the assets, right? So the unified vision is important between the teams, and for that, a shared understanding of the risks is very much appreciated. Plus, the kind of language that we use, a shared language and metrics, that is important. And probably you can look at some joint training. The training has to be frequent and relevant, context-based. And awareness, Chitrank already spoke about. What's important is a situational awareness of what's going around in the manufacturing world, what's the latest campaigns mounted by the APT gangs, hackers, and other groups. So latest ransomware attacks, understand what is the characteristics of them, and see how you can bolster your security posture immediately. Because I remember way back in few years back when I was with a large automobile company, my previous stint, Honda had a major ransomware attack by called Enax, as a reverse of Snake, right? Egans. So immediately our management wanted to, because that was a very devastating attack for Honda. They had to halt production, and we didn't want to have a similar scenario, because there were a lot of expectations that attack could be mounted against the earlier company. My earlier employer was Nissan Motor Corporation. So quickly we had to look at what are the measures that we got, and what is our chance of managing this attack if at all we come under it, right? And what is our security controls that actually can protect us, and quickly we had to provide a update, right? So that is very important. And today a lot of security controls are there. Almost there are 70,000 different vendors, and if you drill down for OT, it will be much lesser though. But what's important is you cannot manually monitor all these controls. A simple thing like vulnerability scanning and patching and all that you can automate with the tools, right? And legacy systems are always a pain in a digital transformation journey. So how do you upgrade them and how do you modernize them? For that, you definitely need a strategy, not just resources and budget. Also, ensure that it is not impacting the production. And of course, you need to have a continuous monitoring and adaptation because of the change in threat scenario. The real-time threat detection today, you have a lot more newer, modern AI-powered tools that help you with the detection, threat intelligence gathering and sharing. All of this is gone through a sea change in today's environment. So all these strategies along with regular testing, right, and assessment and testing can help a lot in your having a very smooth digital transformation journey in manufacturing sector. Yeah, so
Perfect.
that's my take on this.
Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive. I just in the last minute that we have left, I just want to throw it back to Ramesh, who's managed to rejoin us. You're in the middle of telling us how to prioritize cybersecurity initiatives. If you can take just a minute to wrap up your thoughts, and then we'll be at the end of the session.
Yeah, first of all, apology for that technical glitch, which was uncontrollable. So I was defining that engagement and collaboration will bring while you are planning for a production targets or a production objectives. You plan for each of the line item for a budgeting, whether it would be raw material, maintenance, manpower, training, everything. So you influence them saying that cybersecurity and technology is one of the other line item to budget to plan you and achieve your objectives. So that is one of the decision making. Plus, you say cybersecurity, while you are saying your environment is protected, which will help you in adapting newer or cutting edge technologies or emerging technologies to drive your future forward looking decisions. That forward looking decision would be to improve your productivity or the improve the quality, reduction of cost and all that. So you're able to put that business case with the leadership or the team, you will be able to factor in the budget allocated for cybersecurity technology in the annual business planning itself, along with the function. So I was just adding that.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I'm glad that you managed to get back on just to say that. So fantastic. I think we could keep going for another hour or two, but we are at the end of time. So I want to thank you all for joining. And Dr. Yusuf wasn't able to join. We hope he's feeling better soon. So thank you very much. Fantastic panel, great questions, great responses.